Good afternoon all, and we are back live in the Rolex Race Village, situated on the Derwent, right at Kings Pier, and this is URM Group, the 72-footer owned by Anthony Johnson and being driven at the moment by the ace 18-footer skipper Marcus Ashley Jones, and they are in the box seat for the big boats to take out the handicap situation. We'll explain that in a little more detail, but they're well and truly in the Derwent, and alongside me is Peter Shipway, and it looks as though it's down to URM and Alive of the Pocket Maxis, Peter Shipway, who are going to really fight out this handicap situation.
Yes, good afternoon, Gordon. Good afternoon, everyone. The breeze is in. They're going to have enough breeze to finish. Now, whether URM can get home about half an hour in front of Alive, that's the key to it now. They'll both beat Law Connect on corrected time, who's the clubhouse leader at the moment, having taken line honours earlier today. So only two boats have finished at this stage, but this is the battle now for handicap honours. And I think, just looking at the weather and the other position of the boats, whoever wins out of these two could take the Tattersall Cup.
And just for those of you who weren't here live this morning, we covered the finish, and it was just a two-boat war between Law Connect and Andrew Comanche, and in the end, less than a minute decided the margin. It was a fantastic finish, extraordinary finish, probably the greatest finish in the 78-year history of the race. But this is another fairy tale story as well for URM Group. They have the four Johnson brothers on board. Alice Parker is the navigator. She's an ace match racer and small dinghy sailor, elite sailor, and also one of Australia's most famous sailors, Grant Simmer, America's Cup. He's won everything, this guy, and a good friend of Peter Shipway's. This is a great moment for URM Group, who really dominated in the Audi Centre Sydney Blue Water Point Score Series. They have won just about every race bar one. So now they have a great chance of really putting their hand on the Tattersall Cup, Peter.
Yes, well, there she is. She's firmly in the river. Good breeze. Nice asymmetrical spinnaker doing the job for her as she comes towards the finishing line. She's probably got about 8 miles to go, and she stepped away from Alive coming across Storm Bay, so she's really in the box seat now. She's got a convincing lead over Alive, and I think this half an hour could be in her favour. Certainly the breeze is going to stay in, not like this morning when we saw it collapse as they got closer to the finishing line. I think this breeze is firmly in this afternoon.
Well, they've had to do their downwind sailing without their big Code Zero. That was absolutely smashed entering Bass Strait. But once that 180-degree wind shift occurred, they then got back into a nor'easter pattern, and they were able to cross Bass Strait in a nor'easter and down the Tasmanian coast, and that's where they were able to recover. So they haven't got their biggest reaching foresail here, Peter, but they're doing nice timing at the moment. And that heavy work coming down to Tasman Island, where they were really on the breeze and coming round Tasman Island, they really relished that situation.
Very potent upwind, this boat. It has been most of its career, but especially so in the last year or two. They've worked hard at their sail inventory and the tuning of this boat, and they put some very good sailors aboard, and here we're seeing the rewards they're reaping as they're probably right on top of the handicap list at the moment, but still a little way to go, but at the moment in pretty good shape.
Well, Lisa Darmanin is out there very close to URM Group, and Lisa, this is another big flotilla out there, and I tell you what, there are a lot of people here on the dock waiting to greet URM.
So I'm out here on the River Derwent, and as you can see, URM, they're flying their spinnaker, they're having a great time, but they're leaving no stone unturned. The wind is really quite patchy out here, and they've done a couple of jives already to make sure they're staying in the pressure. To me, it looks like this eastern shore does have more wind, so that's where they seem to be staying. And yeah, it's not too rough out here. They had massive waves as they were approaching Tasman Island, but it's looking way better right now. There's a little bit of chop, but it's nothing compared to what they've been through. But yeah, they're absolutely hauling. We've got, I'd say, anywhere from 11 to 18 knots out here from the south-southeast, and they're really picking up pace, doing 13, 14 knots, and maybe even more. And you can see a few little spectators joining them. Not the armada that we had this morning, but still and a massive feat for this 72-foot yacht, and yeah, really trying to push and make sure that they do everything they can to get this handicap. But yeah, you can see they're really tracking along on that shore, and I'm sure a few members of the crew are pretty happy to have some flight of water and maybe settle the stomachs a little bit, but nothing will be like hitting that dock and celebrating a pretty impressive feat by this team. They've had an amazing run so far this year, some really solid results, and it's all kind of coming together for this team.
Well, they've really extended, Gordon, since Tasman Island at the entrance to Storm Bay and the 30 miles across the bay. At Tasman Island, they were only about 4 miles apart, but now the CYC website is telling us they're almost 10 miles ahead. So that's a really massive lead they've opened up coming across the bay, and I would think at the moment it's enough to give them handicap rights over Alive. They've got to give Alive a little bit of time on handicap, probably, as I said earlier, about half an hour. Unless they're doing 20 knots, there's no way Alive's going to save that half an hour. But a little bit to play out of here, but at the moment URM looking very good, and as Lisa said, they've had a stellar year this year already. They've won the Gold Coast race, they've won the Flinders Island race, they've won the Bird Island race, they were 6th in the Cabbage Tree Island race. So of all the main races out of Sydney conducted by the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, they've either won them or finished 6th, and here she is looking very much as though she's going to end up right on top of the handicap honours here.
Yes, well,
as they go into a jibe. Sorry to interrupt, Gordon. They're just doing a jibe now, an inside jibe. So the sail comes inside the, doesn't go round the front, it comes inside, and those asymmetrical spinnakers, rather easy to jibe than the old conventional spinnaker pole with the symmetrical spinnakers that the old boats carried, but that's a nice, neat jibe as we get the terrific overhead shot. So she's probably about 7 miles or so to go to the finish up here in Battery Point. The breeze, not extreme. I thought it might have got a bit fresher this afternoon, but there's still plenty of wind to get her home.
Well, since she was purchased in 2019, she's been optimised for offshore racing and IRC, specifically for the Sydney Hobart yacht race, incidentally. It's been a 5-year project, and it's an ongoing project. But they've certainly loved the upwind conditions, but they've also designed the boat now so that she can hold on downwind in these reaching conditions as well. The coffee grinders were changed to power winches, new electrics, and they've also been able to monitor all of the weather models with their Starlink contact. And yeah, there's 20 people on board, and they are loving this moment. URM Group in a magnificent situation here to possibly steal the handicap prize from the hometown favourite Alive. But it's not all over. Alive will appreciate these conditions as well once she gets her spinnaker up.
Well, earlier today they obviously rounded Tasman Island in pretty rough conditions, and we might, if we're able, to have a look at that earlier today, the conditions she had. And there's the infamous, iconic Tasman Island, the turning point to get into Storm Bay. Let's have a look at URM doing her thing as she approached Tasman at about lunchtime today.
And this was tough going down to Tasman Island. They were on the breeze, and certainly once they rounded as well. They were only able to set their kite once they rounded the Iron Pot, and they're going to have a lovely finish. But this was tough going. It was all hands on the weather rail and wet weather gear too. It was wet.
A reef in the mainsail and a small headsail on, and as you say, crew all perched out on the weather rail, and there's the mighty Tasman Island in the background. What a sight that is as she's powering her way into Storm Bay. That was a couple of hours ago. Plenty of wind there, and then she would know that Alive was breathing down her neck. But it's all hands to the deck here, and as they got across the bay, they unreefed the mainsail and went to full sail, and she made excellent progress across the bay. The shot from leeward. Great sight there as she's pounding through these waves. I think that's looks like maybe Anthony Merrington at the helm, the man they call Youngster, a dual winner of this race. His brother Billy is on one of the bosses on Whisper, David Griffith's 62-footer, who's a fair way back in this race, but the Merrington family, a famous name in Sydney yachting. And Anthony, or Youngster as he's called, is one of these top helmsmen in Australia. It looks like Youngster there.
He's on his 19th Sydney Hobart.
And he's tasted victory before. He was on Rosebud in 2007. He was aboard Ichiban on some of her wins. And this solid crew, as you mentioned, Grant Simmer earlier, Alice Parker's there, 4 Johnson brothers, Anthony, David, Andrew and Nick, and also aboard young Peter Harris, whose father John Harris was aboard Love and War when they won in 1974 and 1978, and crewed on the Line Honours winner Tasmania for Bob Clifford in the 50th Hobart race in 1994. So a lot of history amongst the crew in this boat. Last year she was 11th overall and 3rd in her division, but at the moment she's going to be higher than that. That's the shots earlier today. Good breeze in Storm Bay, out of the southwest. Just hard on port tack there, and as she further gets down towards Cape Rail, she'll ease the sheets and get into the river where we've last seen her coming up under spinnaker.
Well, she was built in 2009, and she won the Maxi and Mini divisions of the famous Rolex Juralia race in Europe in 2010. And conditions a little lighter here now as they are looking across to the eastern shore of the Derwent River.
And probably looking astern for a live, but the lighter breeze will give them a bit of breathing space, because the lighter the breeze, the longer it takes time to cover the distance, of course. And I think they'd probably be reasonably confident, but nothing is for certain in this game, as we saw earlier this morning when 51 seconds separated Law Connect and Andu Comanche. Just running away on starboard jibe into the shore there. They'll extend a little way, and they'll be jibing downwind in these conditions. And no staysail set as yet, but they're just comfortable with that spinnaker, that downwind sail that they've got. And the computer is still showing us the lead of about 9 miles, so that would mean a live would not be in the river as yet.
So the 4 brothers, Peter, all went to the famous college at Hunters Hill, St Joseph's College. There is a 5th brother as well, Nigel, who apparently he's been signed up for the race next year. So there are 9 siblings altogether. 9 Johnson siblings. And URM Group, well, they're all involved in sustainability. They pick up 1 million bins every week in New South Wales, and they are the biggest glass recycler in Great Britain. A very successful family, business operation, URM Group, and everyone has really spec'd this boat. Peter Shipway, I've got to say, in the telecast on Channel 7, this was the boat you tipped to take handicap honours. So that's why they pay you the big money.
I'll up my rate, 0 times 0. But she was. The weather always was going to favour the bigger end of the fleet, the larger boats, I think. And I don't think there's any of the smaller boats can get in and take the victory away from the top end of the fleet. But you never know. There's still a lot to play out. There's 90 odd boats still at sea, of course. And we had another retirement earlier today. I think Bacardi retired with a broken backstay, and she was heading to Eden all okay, I believe. So disappointment to Bacardi, because she has sailed more races than any other yacht in the Sydney Hobart race. This was her 30th race. So an unfortunate retirement, as we're on URM, just running away on starboard jibe. And just looking around, there's it's like furthest right looks a bit like the stance of Marcus Ashley Jones, who's done a great job to put this crew together and put the program together for the Johnson brothers. Not that strong now, the breeze.
And I guess it's a nice sentiment too that Marcus Ashley Jones, his mentor has been David Witt. He said he wouldn't be where he is today without David Witt. In fact, he competed a couple of legs of the Volvo Around the World race with David Witt. And Marcus has been very successful in Europe in the 18-footers. He's dominated over there. And of course we know him well here, Peter, with Asco, Lazarus and URM. So he's an ace steerer, an ace 18-foot skipper, and the URM group looking quite resplendent as they surge towards the finish line.
Well, he's originally from Hobart, Marcus, so it's a homecoming for him. There's a Spinnaker luff just rolling in, and the speed's not great, so there'll be a few jibes downwind to maximise the angles to get the maximum speed and the maximum VMG, velocity made good, speed in a straight line. Crew reasonably relaxed on the deck. The power winches take a bit of the winding away from the muscle men, of which Pete Harris is one. He's got more muscles than his father, that's for sure, Gordon.
Sailing in his 7th, Rolex Sydney Hobart.
Former winner of the World 18-foot title as well as his brother was. Not on the same boat though, but I saw his brother, young John, on Boxing Day morning. He's a former world moth champion, so plenty of good family genes in the sailing family there. They're just getting a bit softer here, Gordon, this breeze. But behind us here at the village where we are, there's still flags are really fluttering, so there's, I think, plenty of breeze to get them home, but never say never down here at this river, Derwent. It can really play some tricks on you, but at the moment, it's looking all good for the URM boys.
Yes, they must be feeling pretty good, Lisa Dominant, as they close on the finish line at Castray Esplanade.
It certainly has sort of softened off out here. We saw them do lots of jives to try stay in the pressure, but I think this cloud is really just dampening the breeze. You can see a lot of the crew, they've all moved forward or back down to that leeward side to manage the boat and still running with that Spinnaker, probably doing 7 knots at the moment. But breeze-wise, yeah, there's not much around as I look around, so I think it'll be really slow them down. The question will be is when Alive pops their head around that corner, but I still think, as we saw this morning, they'll catch up, but they'll hit this light spot, and there's enough speed that URM will keep on charging, and I think as they hit this eastern shore, they actually hook into a little bit more breeze. I can see it on the bow at the moment, so yeah, they're sort of cruising at the moment, I guess, and it's hard to, I imagine, push when there's not a boat right behind you, but they are racing the clock here, and yeah, beautiful trim, beautiful jibes that they've had throughout the River Derwent so far. So, yeah, we'll have to stand by. But nothing spectacular. Looks like it's going to change. I guess you guys have a good idea of what the breeze is near the finish. But looking around right now, it's about 7 knots, maybe the gusts are up to 11.
Yeah, thanks very much, Lisa. And you'll be interested to know that Anthony Johnson, this is if it does pay off for him, it's going to really launch 2024 because he's going to marry his fiancée, Deborah Crebier. But he's going to have 2 weddings, one in Provence and one in Australia. But there's only going to be 1 marriage certificate, Peter.
Are you going to them, Gordon?
No, I haven't been invited.
Well, if we give him a wrap here, we might go to Provence.
Provence, you'd like that? Yeah.
I would. But looking at the statistics now, to beat Law Connect, who, as I said earlier, is the clubhouse leader, URM has to finish by 6 minutes past 6, which is another 3 hours or 3.5 hours away. So you would say you should safely do that. Now, there's Marcus on the left just pointing. And I don't know who that is steering, actually.
Is that Anthony Johnson?
It may well be.
Yes.
It's not youngster, Anthony Merrington. No, that's Marcus. He's probably giving the boss a steer.
So the Johnson brothers...
That's Grant Simmer picking his nose there in the yellow. So,
God, you're cruel.
well, say it as you see it.
But the Johnson brothers wanted to build a team based on their successful business ethic and operation, and also choose good characters in the crew and have fun. And the other interesting point about URM Group, they have been a sponsor of the Manly Sea Eagles, the NRL team, for about 30 years now. So they've been a great sponsor of the Sea Eagles, and no doubt hoping for similar success that they've achieved in their ocean racing this year. where, as I say, they've absolutely smashed it for the Audi Centre Sydney Blue Water Point Score Series. Only the Toll Islands race was the one they missed out on, and there they were leading at Bondi until they ran into a calm and boats went through them. So they were robbed of a victory there by Mother Nature. But URM Group, as we look across again to the eastern shore, still we're estimating maybe about 5 miles from the finishing line at Battery Point.
Yes, a lot of cloud cover, as Lisa mentioned, and the breeze has dissipated somewhat. It's not your clear sky that we had earlier today, but the breeze is still there. Spectator boats are starting to gather as they probably realise that we could be looking at a race winner here. And interestingly, the two boats that are in contention here, the URM Group and Alive, both designed by the Reichel Pugh design team from the west coast of the United States. Jimmy Pugh and John Reichel have been very successful designers over the years. Of course, they designed Wild Oats 10 and Wild Oats 11, and Wild Oats 10 is a sister ship to Alive, which we'll see a bit later on when she comes into the river. But at the moment, we're focusing on URM, and she was originally launched as Shockwave, of course, and a famous name for Neville Crichton.
And built by John McConaughey. And then I think launched as Alfa Romeo 3 for Neville Crichton. But you might correct me on that. But in the Bird Island race, they finished just 53 minutes behind Andu, averaging nearly 13 knots. And that was a great performance.
Oh, she just stubbed her toe there. She's run out of wind. They just ran over the breeze. They got the way of the boat carried them through the calm there, and the spinnaker collapsed. Oh, this is a bit nervous here. Is this river starting to play tricks again on us here, Gordon? Oh, you just see the mainsail struggling to get set. Should pay tribute to the navigator, Alice Parker, as you mentioned earlier. What a terrific job she's done. And of course, on Alive, there's another female navigator,
Adrian Carlin.
Yeah, and wow, she's these two ladies have done a fantastic job to get these boats right into handicap consideration. See Mothy there, Steve Jarvin, just sitting up to windward, grey beard and grey hair. We'll get a closer shot of him, I'm sure.
He's just back from a skiing jaunt in Aspen, Colorado, I believe.
That's right. He spends most of his time over there when he's not sailing, and
or selling motor cars.
Well, no, he's given that away. That's
all right.
all done and dusted. He made his fortune out of that, and now he spends his time sailing or skiing. So it's not a bad life. That's him just getting up and moving into the middle of the cockpit. There's Grant Simmer there with the yellow vest on, or woolly clothes to keep him warm in this quite a brisk afternoon here in Hobart. It's quite cool, as URM now has got the breeze again going into that eastern shore.
And it really is a lovely waterway around the Derwent River.
Here they go, going into a jibe, I think. Yep, a jibe. Sometimes they go, this clue of the sail goes right round the front, but this time it's an inside jibe, which they can normally do in good breeze, and bang, the spinnaker gets set. As you just see, it's fairly light. Takes a while to get it set. Now, unlike the two boats this morning, the two Maxis, this boat has a fixed keel, so it's not a canting keel boat. So they can't lean it over with a keel. They can lean it over with the crew weight or a bit of water ballast. But at the moment, they wouldn't have that in.
Well, they had about, I think, 25 to 30 supporters on the Majestic, which was at the start, and there were cousins. The sisters were all there, aunties, mother, and also their rugby coaches at St Joseph's, brother Tony Boyd and John Reading.
There you go. But just sorry to interrupt you there, Gordon. There's a bit of action happening here. The spinnaker's collapsed again, and they're going for a headsail, I think, going up the forestay. They're getting it sneaking it up, as they say. Oh, it's light. Ugh. Boy, oh boy, what's happening here? We might see if Lisa's there and give us an overview of the wind down there, Lisa, as we look as though they might be going for a headsel on URM. Give us your view at water level of what's happening with this wind.
Yeah, so the wind is really shifty. So we saw URM get this big righty, and now they're kind of coming into a bit of a lefty. It looks quite difficult. They're really close to the shore. I'm not sure if that's a tidal thing, because the tide would be working against them right now. So quite close to shore. You can see all the crew on the boat. They're kind of thinking about it, but in terms of putting the headsail up. But now they're just hooked into a little bit more pressure. So I think they're kind of on standby. They're going to be coming in quite hot. So I think they're in quite good pressure at the moment. There's a lot of cloud activity around as well, so I really think that's making the breeze shift around. But right now it's dumping, and you can see the boat's heeling over again. So it's really changing quite rapidly out here, but I think they are pretty safe being on this shore, because it's a bit more southwest down into the river. So the fact they're over here, they're less in the lee of the mountains, and you can see they're tearing along pretty well here. I think in about 30 seconds it's going to get quite soft again for them. But yeah, they're slowly hoisting that headsail up at the moment, and yeah, they should be coming in pretty hot for the next little while. But yeah, going to be quite light, I think. Nothing too spectacular, but not as light as we saw this morning, that's for sure.
But Lisa, if you look behind you, back towards the iron pot, any sign of alive at all?
No, so I just spin around so you can see we're moving in. We haven't seen them at all. I'm definitely keeping my eye out for them, but there's still plenty of breeze up there, and there's some nasty looking clouds to my left hand side over the mountains there. So whether that actually brings the breeze in will be quite interesting, but there's lots of low dark clouds at the moment, which is I think playing with the breeze. But if I look all the way up, there's still that really nice breeze line that we saw URM come in. So it just depends how they choose to navigate the Derwent and what breeze they have when they get here, because that's what I think I'm learning about this river. It's sometimes timing is everything, and URM is still ripping along here, so I think they'll be pretty safe. But I'll keep my eyes out for the corner there and let you know when Live pops their head around.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Well, you mightn't be able to see right back, but we've just got overhead on the tracker, the Live finishing tracker that picks us up at the iron pot. Alive is in the river. She's up near Opossum Bay, and the lead, that's probably, I don't know, about 6 or 7 miles.
So still in contention, Alive.
Yeah, very much so. Remembering that she's got to finish within about half an hour of URM as we watch the jib, the headsail going up on URM. Still good wake off the bow. The bowmen just feeding the headsail up the forestay. Now, what are they going to do? You would think with a full headsail up, they'll drop the spinnaker. Not too efficient with both those big sails up, but is that a full-size jib? Oh, they're just letting the jib off so that the spinnaker's still filling. Just going to collapse now on the luff, but they'd be trimming that in. They've got some good heel up. Headsail haven't sheeted the headsail on so as not to affect the spinnaker. So they're really heating the boat up now to lean her over, easing the spinnaker. And will they drop the spinnaker, or will they drop the headsail? Or, okay, yeah, they've dropped the spinnaker. They've fired it off the bow, and the crew will haul that in. They'll sheet the headsail on, put the bow up, and aim it towards the John Garrow, I would think. The John Garrow shoal, that lighthouse there, they've got to leave that to port on their left-hand side. Spinnaker coming down. And you can see the breeze behind them, Gordon. It's darker up from where they've whence come, but so that's what Alive would be in, and you can see some quiet patches here where URM is.
So again, drama is building. Whether Alive can compress and close and get within that half-hour margin, which would then give them a terrific opportunity of putting themselves into the front #1 spot on handicap.
I think she's got to be in my rough calculations, about 28 minutes behind URM.
Now there's Peter, there's the Rest Point Casino on the
Yeah.
left, top left there. You can see that tall round building, and just beyond that is the finishing line. But Lisa, you've got some news for us.
Yeah, I've just spotted a live pop their head around the corner. They're in plenty of breeze up there and pointing directly at us. So, yeah, it's going to be tight. I can see lots of pressure up there, but I don't know, there is something on that western shore. So it'll be really interesting to see what they choose to do. Yeah, they're going quick. URM have really put their bow up and have slowed down without that spinnaker. I'm sure they're probably in defence mode now. They're all pointing up here. They can see what I see, actually. There's this big bit of pressure that's funneling along the shore over there, that dark patch. So this cloud front, I think, is pushing that in. And so they've really put their bow up. They're heading towards that. They should hook into that. But it just depends if Alive decide to take that western shore. So, yeah, we have a bit of a race on our hands.
Thank you, Lisa. And we've also seen, Peter, we haven't mentioned in this particular telecast the fantastic effort by Moneypenny, Sean Langman. They're currently lying 5th on handicap, and Moneypenny still has 45. So they've only just entered Storm Bay a short time ago. They're in Storm Bay.
Yes, they're in Storm Bay, and Moneypenny hasn't done much racing this year, but Sean has assembled like all these top boats, a very, very good crew. He's lightened the boat considerably, and he's using crew weight rather than internal ballast for righting moment. I think he's got 18 or 20 crew, so he's got plenty of mates aboard. They've put in a very solid performance. They were a lot closer yesterday, but their course took them slightly different to Alive and URM. They were closer inshore, whereas Alive and URM were well out to the east, and that's paid dividends certainly last night and today. And the lead now is about 25 miles. Alive has over Moneypenny, so they're certainly in contention for maybe a place on handicap. But I think this at the moment is the fight for the overall honours between URM and Alive, unless one of the little boats can struggle their way in and upset the top placings as we think. But we'll go back to URM and have a look. Last we saw of her, she had good pressure. Here she is. Oh, she's got terrific pressure now. She's picked up this breeze that died away when they dropped the spinnaker. She is powering away now. She's doing 10 plus knots direct for the finishing line. You'd be liking to see that if you're aboard URM. Look at this. These breeze is building here. Headsail is well eased. Mainsail down the Traveller, and they are hooting along. They're not hard on the wind. They're close reaching. You can just see the speed of her and the speed of the powerboats around her. There's the crew. Are they victory bound? Oh, they just ran into a soft spot. The river's still playing tricks as it has for the last 78 years in this race.
We also have Peter G on the finishing line to give us the scenario there once we get closer to Castray Esplanade. But 20 strong crew on URM, and they're now heading back towards the western shore, towards that finishing line at Battery Point.
Yes, they'd be laying directly into John Garrow, or actually at the finishing line at that angle. I think they're slightly cracked, as they say. The sheets are slightly eased and reaching now, and the crew working at a sail on the foredeck. Are they packing that up? They may be packing that up. You can see the roller furler out on the end of the prod. They've got probably another sail to get ready to put up.
Justin Mulkerns, the bowman, busy in his 11th Rolex Sydney Hobart yacht race.
And they would know. They'd have the clock running. They would know how much they've got to beat Alive by. They'd know where Alive is. They'd be looking at their computer screens, and they would have a very, very good idea of how they're standing in this race. Not like the old days. You had no idea when you finished how you went. You just had to wait till the officials told you at the end of the race. But now, with this tracker that the CYC have developed, it's almost instantaneous. You know where you are on line honours, where you are on handicap, where you are in your division. It's quite extraordinary computer system that allows you to find out exactly where you are standing in the races. They're looking now towards the finishing line. They're on a straight course to the finish at Battery Point, I'd say. Plenty of wind again.
And
nice.
what an exhilarating experience for URM and this crew as they close on the finishing line. They had their last Brains Trust meeting last night, around about 9 o'clock, and they knew that they weren't going to beat the front. They were going to be hit by the front, but this boat is designed to go upwind. It loves the heavy weather, and that's where it's really, I think, gained the advantage. It's done tremendously well to windward, down to Tasman Island and around in Storm Bay.
Well, the bad news for URM is, if there is any bad news, is this freshening breeze, which will bring Alive home quicker. The lighter breeze would have been slower for Alive to finish, but if she can get really good pressure up the river, she could make things very interesting for URM. At the moment, she's showing only about 3 miles astern, 3.2 miles, and if she's doing, 18 knots as she's showing, she could rumble in this half hour. But anyway, at the moment, you can only do what you can do, and the URM is fully wicked up now, coming to the finish. Bit of spray across the bow. That's a good sign for her, but maybe not if Alive is in the same pressure. I think that's is that Marcus driving now, just looking back? I think maybe Marcus, or is it still one of the Johnson boys driving? We're just trying to hone
Looks
in
like
there.
Marcus.
Yeah, that is Marcus. Ashley Jones driving. The crew, fingers crossed. I think Dick Parker's one of the crew, a guy from North Sails.
Yeah, they've got a couple of guys from North Sails, Dick Parker and James Corrie from the North Sails design team.
Well, Dick's won this race before. I think he was on one of the Itchy Barns, and a vital member who's developed this sail wardrobe for the boat. A lot of new sails have come across in the last period of time and have really lifted this boat's performance. As we say, that she's had an absolutely brilliant year in the long races out of Sydney, and she's looking direct at the finishing line, and the weight will be now on for Alive. Ooh, getting a bit lighter, so it's good and bad news, this lighter breeze.
I'm just looking behind us at the moment, Peter, and it is really fluctuating. It's coming in gusts and then it dies. So still anxiety for URM, knowing that their arch rival in this situation, Alive, a smaller boat that rates better, is also coming in towards the finishing line, but has to get inside that 28 minutes by your calculations.
Yeah, very provisional, those calculations. But we might go to Lisa. She might have a better view down at water level of what breeze Alive might be in. Can you give us an update on Alive's wind pressure there, Lisa, at all?
Yeah.
So at the moment, URM is heading straight towards the finishing line at Battery Point.
So it looks a threatening sky looking back down the river, and Lisa obviously is up chasing URM to the finish. You can see the mainsail just a little bit inside out there, so that means she's got excellent pressure and heeling over and probably doing 11, 12 knots there, and that's excellent speed. And we might try Lisa again. Lisa, could you give us a bit of an update looking behind of where perhaps Alive is and some indication of what wind pressure she may be in?
Yeah, so Alive is in plenty of pressure. So that kind of sou'wester really has started to dump over the mountains. That's when we saw URM really hook up and heel into it. But Alive is in plenty of wind. They're probably in 18 to 20 knots up there. So they're in the same thing as URM, and they've got a bit more of a direct line then URM had to sail. So they're kind of pointing and shooting at the finish at the moment. So yeah, they're heeled over. They're looking really good. Sorry, it's a little bit chaotic here. We've just been trying to catch up to URM because they started hauling across there. But yeah, Alive is pushing hard, and yeah, there could be a real threat here for URM's handicap result.
Now, I might review my provisional timing then, Gordon. I think it might be less timing that Alive has to finish behind URM, which is good news for URM. I think it might be down to about 20 minutes, something like that. So the time is getting narrower for Alive. These are rough calculations, but
still tight.
Still tight, absolutely, especially if Alive can come home very quickly. But there's a URM coming home very quickly.
Pointing straight towards the CBD now. And there's Rest Point Casino off to the left, that tall circular building, and actually straight towards Battery Point. So they're pretty well laying the line, Peter, at this stage.
Yeah, they're reaching at good speed, direct for the finish. They'll be round the John Garrow, and nice waves breaking over the bow, so everything looks good. Nice trim. See, beautiful looking boat, isn't it? The good hull shape, and just really smoking along here.
Owners Anthony Johnson and David Johnson is the CEO of the URM Group. Andrew, the other brother, does the runners, and Nick's also a helmsman. And as we mentioned, the Tasmanians are all cheering for Alive, which is hoping to repeat its 2018 effort when it took handicap honours. And the last Tasmanian boat to win on handicap twice was Westwood back in 1946-7. And if Alive can be successful here and get the handicap prize, the odds are against her at the moment, but if she does, it will be exactly a 75th anniversary since Westwood won on handicap in 1948.
It's hard to do, to win two races, but what Westwood did in 47-48, back-to-back wins, it's only been done two other occasions. Of course, Freya in 63, 64, 65 with her triple. I don't think that'll ever be repeated. The Halverson brothers designed the boat, built the boat, and won the race 3 times. I don't think we're going to see that in our lifetime. And of course, Ichiban won back-to-back races as well.
Matt Allen won 3 handicap trophies in 4 years.
Yep, but his URM, she just stopped a bit here, Gordon. You can see the wake has gone down a little, and the boat is a little upright. And she's still got a little way to go to this finishing line at Battery Point, where we saw all the drama earlier today when Law Connect grabbed victory right at the last stage to get line honours. But at the moment, we're talking handicap honours, the Tattersall Cup, which is the real prize. We might talk about that a bit later once URM finishes, how that's all calculated. Oh, here's Alive. Okay, here she comes. She is powering up the river. Uh-oh, for URM, but she's got to hit this soft spot that URM is in. But at the moment, she is in really good pressure. She's come right up the middle of the river, whereas a URM had to jibe coming up the river. Alive has set a direct course for the finish, but there's still a few white caps out there, so boy, she's looking in good shape at the moment. How far behind is she? This is the key to it. This is the key. Look at her Alive. She is absolutely smoking. She's still got a reef in her mainsail, Gordon. That's how much wind there is. You'll see the top of the mast, the mainsail is reefed.
And Duncan Hine, this is the Tasmanian crew. Duncan Hine, the skipper, Phil Turner, the owner, on board as well. And he knows these waters better than anyone else in the race.
And she's got a small headsail on as well. I just find this quite remarkable. But she must have, well, she has plenty of pressure. And there's more coming too.
Well, this could well put her in the number 1 position. She's made up tremendous ground since entering the river.
And they don't seem to have a bigger headsail ready to go either. So they must be confident that this breeze is going to carry them up the river to the finish. With a reef in the mainsail, boy, this is full pressure here for Alive and full pressure on URM. Oh, boy.
The Reichel Pew 66 from Tasmania, Alive. Duncan Hine, representing the Derwent Sailing Squadron. Famous yacht that won this race in 2018.
Oh, look at this.
Wow.
Oh, heartbreak here for one of these boats. But URM at the moment is Alive bringing this breeze up with her. That's the question. And she is almost down to a couple of knots. And look at this. Here comes Alive, a massive speed difference. Alive still with this reef in the mainsail. Maybe they've damaged the mainsail, but I would think they'd be working on bigger sails. It looks like there's a bit of action on the foredeck of Alive. And
this is a game-breaking situation here for Alive. Lisa, you're very close to the action. Bring us up to date.
You can see Alive here, Gordon. She's got a canting keel. You can see that keel with a bulb on the end of it that sticks out to windward to give the boat stability. And she is rumbling up here. And this could be a victory march here, by all means.
This is the former Blackjack, owned by Peter Harburg, purchased by Phil Turner back in 2014. And some top Kiwis on board, Pete. Stu Bannatyne, Gavin Brady, Logan Anderson and Brad Farrand. And also the Englishman Chris Cowan. So it's an outstanding crew.
Yes, Stu Bannatyne, 8 times round the world racer and won 4 round the world races. I mean, that's pretty good credentials. And I think that looks like Stu's steering. Oh, okay, URM's on the other tack now. No, they're on starboard. I'm sorry, she was on port, so she's tacked. Anyway, game on here.
That's Empress Towers off to the left there, that white tall building.
So she's not far off the finish here, Gordon, is she? Here she comes. Okay, there's the buoy just to left of screen, that yellow triangular mark with the green Rolex labels on it. So she's getting close to the finish, but look at the breeze. It's light. She's been headed. And we've got Pete G down at the finishing line. And maybe, Pete, you could bring us into what you're seeing down there.
I can tell you that they fell into a hole on URM about a mile from the finish line. They went from 18 knots down to about 4, but they've picked up again now to about 6, 7, 8 knots, and they're steaming for the line now, which is about 100 metres away, about 300 metres off the shore at the Castray Esplanade. They're going to get the gun, and Alive has really thrown it at them up the River Derwent. They'll probably run into that light air as well, but URM, to the relief of them on board, there's patting on the back now, but they were really worried there about 5 minutes ago. They got about 20 metres to cross the line. Third boat home in the 2023 Rolex Sydney Hobart. There's the gun from the Castray Esplanade box, and URM Group crosses the line after an anxious last 20 minutes on the River Derwent. Have they done enough to win the race on handicap? They've certainly now relegated the Line Honours winner out of that position of doing the double.
Well, the odds, Peter, have certainly gone back to Alive, I think.
Spectator craft here on the river, but most of the local interest is back down the river with Alive. There's probably about 30 boats around the DSS representative. as they head up the river. But congratulations to those on board URM Group. Marcus Ashley Jones, the skipper, who cut his teeth here in the River Derwent, sailing Sabos and flying 11s out of the RYCT. He knows what the vagaries are of this waterway, but even he must have been very worried there in the last quarter of an hour or so. But they are now preparing to drop the sails.
Okay, well, we're seeing her live running into this light air. She's unreefing the mainsail, as we expected she would, and she's hit a bit of a headwind here from close reaching to being a dead muzzler, as they say, hard on the wind. They'll count the keel over to lean her over, but she has run out of wind as well. I've got my clock running. She's URM's been across by a minute and a half, and it's slow progress for Alive. But let's go down to Lisa. Bring us up to date, Lisa, what you're seeing down here.
Yeah, so Alive just had a ripper run into the river. I think they had the best pressure and just, point and shoot. But, obviously now that they have got into the slight spot, that canting keel, you can really see the impact of that. But they had a fantastic run. They've pulled their mainsail all the way up now, and there's not much coming. It is quite gusty, so there are some slivers of pressure. There is one coming. I mean, we've got a foiling windsurfer behind us ripping into this dark gust. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera. So they're all just looking at that and see this foiling windsurfer. They're running out of pressure too. I don't think that pressure is going to get them. So I think they'll just be crawling to this finish. But what a run they had. As I was saying before, I think it was about timing in the river for everyone. And URM, I think Alive probably quartered the distance, so we didn't see them for a good amount of time since we saw URM, and then they just closed the distance dramatically. So they're going to be super happy with that. And as you can see, all the crew are nice and low and just sitting there now. And to me, I think with this race, all of this race from the start and to the finish, it's really been what's been happening in the sky, because the clouds have wreaked havoc. We've heard people getting caught in squalls, with squalls head on, and then I think that the clouds had a massive impact this morning and today and this afternoon as well. So it's probably needed a few meteorologists on board, not just navigators today, but or the last couple of days. But they're fully flat in the water now and actually jibing, it looks like. So it's doing swirly things here and making it tough for them, and URM just have to sit there and watch the clock.
Yeah, look at that. It's absolutely almost stopped here, Alive, from going from a rocket ship to dead stopped, and she's back on starboard tack now, still with that smallish headsail up. I just thought they might have gone for a bigger headsail, but they probably didn't want to move too much around the boat, the crew lunging the sail around and changing sails. So they've stuck with what they've got, and what they've got is not much. It's very light air, and 4 minutes now have elapsed since URM has finished.
So they've roughly got about 16 minutes to finish.
Well, that's
by
very
your
rough.
calculations,
I don't want to hold anyone to that, but that's roughly my calculations, Gordon.
Well, they're pretty close to the finishing line.
Yeah, but look, there's no breeze. It's just
breeze.
quit. It's just collapsed. And this is so typical of the river. At times, I thought the sea breeze had stabilised and would have got these boats home, but it certainly hasn't stabilised here. It's just lifted off. And as we said, and Lisa said, down at water level, the clouds coverage is pretty comprehensive, and she is absolutely parked here in the river.
This is just incredible, isn't it? Just when they looked as though they had the prize at their mercy.
Yeah,
bang.
It was always going to be tight. We knew that. We absolutely knew that.
So it's just a waiting game now. It's a game of nerves. Duncan Hine, as we say, and this crew, they know these waters so well. He's been in this situation before. It's a matter of, I guess, getting out the rosary beads and then hoping some wind comes.
Yeah, if she gets some wind, she's still probably a mile or so from the finish, but at the moment it doesn't look like any wind. I think she's got to hope that this breeze comes out of Sandy Bay. I think that's a big hope. And there's the crowds awaiting the arrival of URM and Alive. Been crowds here all day since early this morning, when the two Line Honours yachts had that monumental battle up the river, and Law Connect getting home by 51 seconds. But the crowd there.
And give us a wave if you're supporting the Tasmanian boat. There's a few Tasmanian supporters there, Peter, alive. They've got to finish in about 15 minutes if they're going to pip URM, but that's very unofficial.
I need to start blowing the wind down. There's Stu there, just moving up to the windward wheel and pushing the buttons to cant the keel to try and get this boat moving, to try and lean her over. And the crew are working on something on the bow. There's a little breeze coming up. Can't see Adrian there. Can we see Adrian Carlin, the navigator? She'll be there somewhere now. They're lugging a bigger sail up. You can see them dragging that sail bag up from down below. They just need, oh, gee, they're not far off this finishing line, Gordon.
Yeah, they're very close to the finishing line.
They're just starting to pick up a bit of breeze now. If we look behind us...
I think they're going to do it, Peter.
Well...
If we look at behind us, yeah, it's still pretty fluky. But they found a little bit of breeze, and the URM crew are looking very anxiously back at this yacht alive as it closes on the finishing line.
Darren Twirler-Jones, a great Australian yachtsman, he's on board, and he's tasted great success around the world in his yachting career. And now they're starting to move. The number 66 on the bow, and they've got a bigger sail. They're working on a bigger headsail. And there's Adrian just walking forward. I think that's her with it. Yeah, that's her sitting down to leeward with a computer screen.
What a triumph if it does go their way for Adrian Carlin in her 31st Sydney Hobart. She's had line honours victories on the 100-footers on Wild Oats 11. You've sailed with her, Peter. She's an international nominee for Sailor of the Year. She's won everything. She holds the world speed record around the globe. And Adrian Carlin, in a real navigator's race, has really the old case of the cream rising to the surface.
Well, all these navigators, the four boats that are, well, the three that have finished and the fourth about to finish, have done a remarkable job of picking this weather, and it's favoured these top end of the fleet. But we've got 8 minutes and 15 seconds elapsed since URM went across. I just got to get my calculations right here. I don't want to give anyone false hope. They're just getting ready a bigger sail to unfurl. Looks like maybe a code 0. Perhaps not much breeze. They had a bit of a get along there, but now it's died away again.
This is really exasperating.
There's Stu Bannatyne steering there. And
remember, URM's a 72-footer and rates higher, and we're looking at a 66-footer, so a better rating for this boat. So they have a little bit of time on their side, but we estimate, Peter, about 1 minute to the finishing line. So it looks as though they're going to be inside their target, alive.
We've got to say unofficially, Gordon.
Unofficially, yeah.
It's a lot of maths done in my head here, but it's... we don't want to, as I said earlier, give false hope. We wait for official ratification of the timing. Headsail ease now. The crew, they'd want to be not much movement in the boat because it shakes the sails around. Stu just looking up at the mainsail. Still light air. Advantage of these counting keel boats is they can move the keel to heel the boat over a bit to make the sails set a little bit better and give a bit of feel for the boat. But oh boy, it's slowed down again.
They're doing 2 knots at the moment.
Could be an agonising 1 minute.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, here they come. Yeah, boy, it's close. This is close. Their timing, unofficially again, is 10 minutes since URM has finished. Will it be enough? Oh, gee, you've still got a few minutes here by the look of it at this speed.
Will this be the second handicap win for this yacht, the Tasmanian yacht, to emulate the performance of Westwood in 1947-48? And if it is, it will be the 75th anniversary of Westwood's magnificent win in 1948.
God, this is a cruel race, isn't it? It really is a cruel race. And that's why I think everyone comes back. There's always something in it. It's not straightforward. It's
There's-
never straightforward.
Pete, there's the finishing box on the right,
Yep,
that white box.
that's
So
right.
they're literally
Yeah, almost there. Pete G, what are you seeing down on the water?
They're only about 40 metres away, Peter, but it tantalisingly seems to be getting further out of their grasp. They're losing all boat speed at the moment as they come up to the line. And as you said, all the locals are willing them on. I asked URM Group, do you think you've done enough? And they said no. That was about 10 minutes ago. But surely they can coast home from now.
Well, they've got about 3 boat lengths it looks to go, Pete, and they're coasting. That's the right word, I think. It is slow progress, but it's 11 and a half minutes have gone, and they're probably another 15 seconds away, but slowly, slowly here.
softly, softly catch your monkey.
I think they've joined Westwood here, Pete. The gun's going to go any second. There's bells ringing on the Investigator, I think. They're over the line, alive, is the handicap leader in the 2023 Rolex Sydney Hobart. Unofficially.
Keep saying unofficially. We really need official ratification here. It's just by our very rough calculations, but I think they will know. The URM boys will probably know, so you might not want to check in with them. They might be a bit disappointed, but a thrilling battle, not only for line honours, but for handicap honours. What a performance by these two boats, URM and Alive. A terrific effort, shaking hands all around.
I can see Phil Turner, the owner there, Peter. He lives in Thailand. He sailed dinghies on the Derwent as a youngster and only took up ocean racing 10 years ago. And Duncan Hine was named Australian Offshore Sailor of the Year in 2021, around that COVID period. But this boat has travelled all over the world in recent years. They're second across the line in Honolulu, behind Jim Cooney's Comanche, back in 2018.
And Gavin Brady, of course, aboard, a key member. So, Pete, if you get close, you might ask them to give an overview if they think they might have been successful. But I'm sure they'll be waiting for the official ratification to come through as well.
Well, Adrian Carlin will certainly know, the navigator. I think it looks like unofficially Tasmania's prize here, very unofficially, because
yeah, I think she got it home by about 12 and a half minutes. URM did, and I think, oh gee, I don't know. It's going to be tight, very tight. And you can just see how the breeze has quit. A lot of congratulations going along to the crew of Alive. Where's Adrian? I can't see her. She's probably hiding down below doing her calculations.
well, the excitement's controlled at the moment aboard Alive. But what a fantastic performance by them. They also went wide of the rum line. They were out there with URM, Peter, and they certainly had a nice run down the Tasmanian coast. They were able to
very
hold
wide.
that nor'easter.
They're way wide at halfway down the Tassie coast, whereas Moneypenny was a lot closer to the rum line and inshore. And that certainly paid dividends last night. But both performed brilliantly, URM and Alive. A tough first night with lightning and wind direction changes and wind strength changes. The crews that we spoke to this morning from both Andu Comanche and Law Connect said what a really heinous night it was, horrendous night. It was like having a fire hose pointed at your face for hour after hour after hour, as the water from the rain and the spray was just hitting them like bullets in the eyes. And there's lightning everywhere, and the breeze changed direction by 180 degrees, got to 30 and 40 knots, then dropped out again. So a really hard, typical Hobart race, certainly on the first night. And look at it now, it's hardly a breath of wind in the river. Well, we saw Alive, though. She came into the river and smoked up to the John Garrow, and then got very light from there. And poor old URM, she really struggled probably for 3/4 of the way up the river. But here's Alive at the moment, just unrigging, and we might see Peter G or Lisa, we get a comment from the water level of what they're seeing down there and what the thoughts are of the respective crews.
Oh, what an amazing finish that was. I mean, I think Alive were just, timing was everything for them. And I think, they had to be super patient. They sat there, they got becalmed for a couple of minutes, but there was just that sliver of pressure that they did get. And I think the wind direction just meant that here was so sheltered. And I mean, hats off to URM. They did the best they could with the conditions they had, but unfortunately, Alive just had better conditions. So pretty amazing that you've got a reef in your main, and a couple of minutes later, you're sitting becalmed, thinking, "Where's the wind going to come from next?" But yeah, pretty happy on board, and amazing for the locals as well to have a Tassie boat do so well, and also I think with Alice Parker and obviously Adrian. To see two female navigators just goes to show how far we're coming in the sport of sailing. And I think we had over 120 female sailors in the race, and some top navigators as well, finding it out for those handicap wins. So yeah, really impressive. And obviously being a female sailor myself, I'm really stoked to see that. But every sailor on board is important, and if we learn anything from talking to Law Connect, the win is correct.
Okay, well...
The win is correct, I think. I think they got it.
Well, let's not get too excited. The win between URM and Alive is confirmed. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
There's still a lot of boats out at sea.
Still 87 boats still out there, but we are getting official ratification that Alive had to finish by 3:31, and she finished... Time is now 3:24, so she finished a few minutes ago. So... Provisionally, we're saying that Alive will go top of the leaderboard, and URM will be down in second spot. Moneypenny is the only other boat that can disturb these two place getters, and she's got to finish by 12 minutes past 4, but she's not even in the river yet. So it looks like...
It looks good for Alive in Tasmania.
Yeah, it certainly does, Gordon. She's been... finished now, and there's the crew. They've probably got a very good idea that they've certainly been successful against URM.
There's Adrian Carlin.
Yeah, there's Adrian.
With that green, and what a triumph for her, because we spoke to her, Peter, didn't we, before the race? She said, look, when you hit that Tassie coast, that's when the fatigue is really going to start to kick in, and that's where you really have to ramp it up. And she said that they'd love to get to Tasman when that southerly transition arrives. Well, they didn't get there to Tasman in time. They had some tough sailing there last night and this morning, but they've been able to plot a course, and they've been able to come through triumphantly, and they absolutely flew across Storm Bay and the Derwent, and they've just come inside that time zone.
Okay, we might go down to Peter G's right alongside them. Over to you, Pete.
Well, I think Adrian Garland's come up from the chart table to confirm that you are provisionally the winner on corrected time. Is that it, Adrian? You're waiting to hear?
Changing times, what it's really exciting, what's happened to doing. Sometimes it goes your way, hopefully it's gone our way today.
Duncan, want to say a word?
Yeah, that's it's very hard. We need a poll, don't we, Peter? But I think we could get the gist of what Adrian said. Duncan Hine is there as well, and Peter's going to try and get up nice and close.
There's Darren Jones at the back, twirler. Just Adrian's got her hand on his shoulder, top sail trimmer, and they'd be pretty happy, those boys. Stu Bannatyne at the helm.
Peter might be in a good position to have a word to Duncan Hine. Peter.
Duncan, could you just repeat what you've told us? You think you've joined Westwood as a dual Tasmanian winner of the race?
I think we're up there with Jock now, aren't we? So yeah, Westwood, yes. Let's hope so. So yeah, only time will tell, but it looks pretty promising at the moment, doesn't it?
Tell us about the race up the Derwent. You must have made up 5 or 6 miles on URM Group there. They flew their kite, you didn't.
We had a different breeze altogether. So yeah, no, we had a lot more Western. It was very shy. We couldn't have put a kite up in there, and yes, and obviously something happened here where they were, well, they lost all their breeze, and we carried through with a little bit.
Did you know you were making up ground and that it would make the difference?
Slight surprise to us, but we were hopeful. We were always hopeful. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah.
What about at Tasman? They seem to have a winning break on you.
They were getting away. Yeah, like they you know, they're a bigger boat, and it was.
So the Reichel Pugh 66 beat the 72 this time.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, we'll see.
So how's Philip feeling?
He'll be in raptures. I'm sure he's more excited than any of us can imagine.
All right, well, sit tight, and we hope all your dreams come true.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, brilliant stuff, Peter G. And Duncan Hind, he's still pretty hyped up, isn't he?
Well, they mentioned Jock there when they asked him whether he's going to join the double winner, and of course Jock was Jock Muir from the famous Muir family here in Hobart, who designed and built Westwood and was crew aboard Westwood when she got the double in 47, 48. And
yeah, he built it in his backyard actually at Battery Point. And if you are in Hobart, it's over in Constitution Dock, and
a synonymous name with the Hobart race and the Muir family and famous Tasmanians, and well, alive at the moment we think is provisionally first, but only 4 boats are in. And let's look at the little boat, Mistral, the little two-hander for Rupert Henry and Jack Boutell. She's still got a long way to go. She's got 269 miles to go. And she's got her, there she is. She's in 5th place provisionally on handicap, and she's got to finish by 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, which is about 25 hours away, and she's got 260 miles to go, so she's got to average about 11 to 12 knots. I don't think she can do it.
That's a tall order,
That is a tall order for any boat, let alone a 34-footer. But what
the two two-handers having a great battle, Kraken 3 and Mistral.
Yeah, well, Kraken 3 is the Tasmanian boat, Robbie Goff and John Saul. They got line honours in the two-handed division 2 years ago in a boat called Sidewinder. But what a performance for these two little smaller boats. They won't get the job done, I don't think, sadly for them. But they're still the only boats really that I think could upset the apple cart, and appropriately the apple cart here in Hobart. I think, but they've got to average over over 10 knots, and they'll find that impossible.
So that just about wraps us up for the time being. We'll be back at 4 o'clock local time, which is not that far away, for a full wrap of the day, including the line honours and that gripping battle for the handicap prize, the Tattersall Cup. It's very unofficial. Remember, there are a lot of boats still at sea, and Mistral, for instance, and Kraken 3, if they did that average speed required, which is a very tall order, they're still in contention officially, for sure. But it looks very good for Alive as a second handicap victory for the Reichel Pugh 66, and emulating the magnificent performance of Jock Muir's Westwood. George Gibson, way back in 1947-48 for the Tasmanians. And final word, Peter.
Just as we watch Alive drop a mainsail coming into the dock, we've got the confirmation that at the moment she has beaten URM by 20 minutes on corrected time. 20 minutes is the time differential, and they're the two boats that'll probably be first and second on corrected time now. Alive provisionally first, URM provisionally second. A thrilling battle, top marks to both crews, a tremendous performance, and at the end, Alive just had that little bit up her sleeve, and a great finish up the river gave her the provisional victory.
Thank you very much, Peter, and that's all from the Frank Coulson Memorial Studio. Frank, one of our colleagues who's no longer with us, but he was one of the very key people with Hype TV. But thanks for joining us. We'll be back at 4 o'clock from the Rolex Race Village here, and repeating that Alive now leads the race on handicap and has pipped URM Group, with Moneypenny in 3rd place at the moment, still at sea, and Law Connect in 4th place overall. Back at 4 o'clock.